Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of How to PMP. This time we're here to talk about autopilot and one-time passcode. And with me here today is Kim and Jimmy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Good to
Matt,
see you. Thanks for joining.
this is a really important topic because as you guys know, when we start to talk scale with our customers and everything else, it's all about how quickly you can get these things out. As the return to office, as everything starts to go, our customers are talking to us about how can we equip more rooms. And if we can do it through autopilot and the one-time passcode, that really is the most efficient way to scale your organization with Teams rooms.
Absolutely. And really, the easiest way to deploy and the most secure way to deploy is with Autopilot. It gives you that simple to deploy, take it out of the box, plug it in. No need to share credentials across anything. No need to do any additional work. All the setup's done behind the scenes. Everything's registered. The devices are attested to your environment and ready to rock and roll. I can say with a lot of confidence that we've had some customers that have deployed this at really large scale and have been very happy with the experience thus far. And I think today will be a really great time to just kind of walk through with everybody. What is Autopilot? How does it work? What have we done as Microsoft to try to make this deployment story as easy as possible? And then what does a lot of that look like?
Yeah, we've
All right,
done a
Matt, do you
lot over
want
the last couple of weeks to actually help the information, and we're going to present a lot of the new information today too.
All right, Matt's going to get started. Jimmy's going to be on chat. I'm going to watch the lobby. So Matt, if you don't mind, kick us off.
Sure. So hopefully everybody's seeing my screen now. We're going to walk through some slides first, and also I'm going to flip back and forth. We've got a couple of really important sets of documentation that I want to make sure that we share. So I'm going to flip back and forth between slides and a couple of other things. So hopefully you're seeing slides right now. But starting off with, why did we kind of create this Autopilot plus auto login methodology for Teams rooms on Windows devices? Really kind of the biggest point of feedback we heard from customers about the Windows setup process was that they'd take it out of the box, then they had to do all these sort of manual steps. If you wanted to enter ID, join, and Intune enroll your devices, those were manual steps you had to take, separate from just taking that device out of the box and doing that setup. So one of the first things that we did was look at, okay, how do we do the same thing that we do with Windows laptops today for end customers and deliver that for Teams rooms also? Intention there being automatic Entra ID join, automatic Intune enrollment, giving you the security and manageability that you look for in a Windows device, compiled with how do we do an automated login scenario here. And that's sort of why you see all of our branding as Autopilot plus auto login. What it really is using the same native capabilities that are in Windows today to do self-deployment of Windows laptops, combined with the Pro Management Portal delivering automatic login for the Teams rooms side of the house. With this, what we've seen from both our customer pilots as well as from Microsoft internal deployments is that we're about 85% faster from a deployment perspective. And so our usual story is that you can do this in minutes versus hours and days. We have done demos on stage at some large trade shows. I've done demos at technical boot camps in the past. We did one, Jimmy, what was that, 2 years ago? Or was that last year, where we did the technical boot camp where we raced to see if I could autopilot set up a device faster than we could manually set one up. Done that across a series of different devices and across a series of different configurations, really just showcasing how much faster this is. This also solves a lot of those integration scenarios where, the IT admin is doing a lot of the configuration work, but they're deploying that device somewhere else in the world, somewhere that they're not present. There's an AV integrator or a partner, or maybe there's a distributor that's just plugging the devices in. And rather than having to give them a set of instructions and give them a set of credentials to set up that device from the beginning, really, they should be able to just take that out of the box, plug it in, and it should automatically set itself up. Outside of automatic login and some of the capabilities that we have for Teams rooms today for automatic login, we did also build a capability for one-time passcode. So autopilot and auto login is really our go-forward approach. That's how we recommend everyone deploy Teams rooms today. However, we know that there's scenarios where an organization maybe doesn't want to do autopilot, doesn't want to use Intune, or maybe just doesn't have the readiness to get everything up and running or get the hardware IDs registered ahead of time. We also built what we call one-time passcode as kind of an alternative solution. It is not as friction-free as just take it out of the box and plug it in, but it's really close. You take the device out of the box, you plug it in, and then you have to type in what I believe is a 16-character code. So it's either 12 or 16 characters onto the Teams Rooms console. That will then complete the sign-in into Teams. So there are a couple of options here. Today, our focus is really on that autopilot journey, though, and want to make sure that we spend as much time as possible talking about that. But I always just like to share that the one-time passcode bits are there in the event that your organization wants to look at something outside of the autopilot flow. One-time passcode is really the alternative solution. But for the sake of today, we're here to talk about Windows Autopilot and auto login for Teams Rooms. So what you'll see is kind of what I was alluding to as we were talking earlier, but really there's kind of two Lego pieces to this. There's the native Windows Autopilot functionality, and technically we're using the self-deploying capabilities. There's also a user-enrolled version of Autopilot. We're not using that. We're using the self-deployment option where the device hardware attestation is actually what does the enrollment rather than a user typing in their credentials, me typing in Matt Slomka at Microsoft.com and logging in with my credentials. This is the hardware is actually doing that attestation. And then there's the auto login piece of the journey from the Pro Management Portal side. So there's some configuration that you have to do on the Pro Management Portal side to tie the resource account to the Windows Autopilot hardware ID. Those two things together deliver Autopilot for Microsoft Teams Rooms. So kind of starting out and baselining on what is and what are kind of the important baseline pieces that you need in order to get Autopilot working. So starting off from the Windows Autopilot side, there is this concept of a hardware ID. You'll hear it referred to as a PKID in some cases, a hardware hash, a Autopilot info, and we use a lot of the phraseology at different times for various reasons. And so the intent really overall, though, is how do you get the information about that device, the unique ID, the unique identity of that device into Intune? For laptops today, most of our OEMs have an automated process for that. So you go and buy a laptop from an OEM or even a reseller in a lot of cases, they can automatically add that Autopilot info to your environment and to Intune in your customer tenant. Similar process can happen with a lot of our Teams Rooms OEMs. So we went, and Jimmy and I went and worked with a lot of our OEMs to write a blog post. And this blog post has step-by-step guidance from each Teams Rooms on Windows OEM for how to get the Autopilot hardware ID. So in some cases, it's a, hey, there's a sticker on the box, scan the barcode, you're good. In some cases, it's, oh yeah, hey, if you reach out to us at an email address and say, hey, I bought these, here's the serial number of these devices, can you give me the hardware IDs? Awesome. In some cases, it's, hey, if I buy this from you, you guys automatically load it into my tenant and I'm off to the races. There's a series of different ways to get the hardware ID, and it is a little bit unique per Teams Rooms OEM. So if I flip over to our lovely blog post here, we've got the blog post here. It really kind of walks through high level of like, hey, here's what Autopilot is, here's how Autopilot works. And then it walks through the various ways to collect and upload that hardware identity into your environment. Important part first, though, is knowing across each of the OEMs, how do I get that information? So you'll see here, and they're just in alphabetical order. We've got Crestron, we've got HP, we've got Lenovo, we've got Logi. We've got a couple folks that are in the coming soon stage still, but these will be uploaded shortly as well. But these videos walk through step by step how to get that Autopilot information, and each OEM actually built a video showcasing end-to-end deploying their devices with Autopilot. That way you can see step by step how they recommend configuring and deploying their devices, just because everyone's slightly unique. So for whatever OEM you're aligned to and that you do your purchasing from, that is the best place to get that information and learn. There's also links on the right-hand column to verbal or written versions of it. If you'd rather learn and consume the content in a written format rather than via video, we've got both options there across all of the OEMs. Intention here being that you know how to get that Autopilot hardware ID. This has been the biggest point of feedback that we've had from customers has been, hey, great, like Microsoft, you guys made Autopilot available, but I can't get the Autopilot hardware ID, so this doesn't work for me. We've made it so that, yes, you can get that Autopilot hardware ID, and it's very easy to do. Then once you know that Autopilot hardware ID, it really comes down to how do I actually get that hardware ID into my Teams or into my Intune environment, excuse me. Now, for an OEM, when you buy a laptop, typically they auto load it into your tenant or you manually load it. There are also alternative options though. So from a Teams Rooms perspective, the OEM can load that information directly into your tenant same way. If you watch some of the videos, the OEMs will talk about how, hey, they can auto add those Autopilot hardware IDs into your environment. Also, if you're buying from an integration partner or a reseller, if they are a cloud solution provider, they can actually automatically add that information into your environment as well. They can take that Autopilot hardware hash, they can take that PK ID, they can also take make, model, and serial number combined together and upload that into your tenant on your behalf. So you as the customer don't have to do anything. The partner handles that step in the process, and I'll walk through our public documentation for partners on how to do that as well. And then if all of that fails, if you can't get the OEM to do it or don't want to allow the OEM to load the hardware IDs directly, if you don't have an integration partner that you're working with, or if your integration partner can't automatically load that information for you, there is also ways that you as an IT admin can manually upload a CSV with all of the information in it directly into Intune to still build that process. I would look at that as a last resort though. That ends up being a fairly manual process of collecting the hardware IDs, organizing the hardware IDs, and uploading them. Can certainly do it. That's how I've built my lab environment today, but there are other ways to do that as well. But from that perspective, what does that actually look like? And what does it look like if you have a partner or your OEM do that load for you? So you as the customer would place that order. Customer places the order either directly with the OEM or with the reseller of choice. The OEM or the reseller sends all of that information using what Microsoft refers to as Partner Center. It is a web-facing portal that partners have access to do tenant management, to do some of the other things that they do as Microsoft partners. But one of the key pieces inside of that portal is actually the ability to upload those Autopilot hardware IDs. They can load that data directly into Intune for you, to your tenant specifically, and then just ship the devices directly to you as the customer without having to do any additional work, any additional conversation, any additional back and forth. No one from your organization has to take any action. The devices just automatically appear as Windows Autopilot devices in your tenant. And I've got the link here, but I'm going to flip right over to my browser and I'm going to show our Microsoft Learn documentation. So I published this Learn doc the other day, but this walks through for partners step by step how to actually go and manually load, or excuse me, and load those hardware IDs into a customer's tenant. It walks through making sure that the integration partner has a CSP relationship. CSP relationships are typically there as a way for a cloud solution provider to have delegated administrative access to a customer's tenant. This is, think MSP style scenarios where you've got someone that's going to manage your Microsoft 365 environment for you. That's really what this is intended for. However, you can actually request a CSP relationship without the admin permissions. This gives your cloud solution provider and your integration partner just the ability to load Autopilot hardware IDs into your tenant without having overarching administrative access to your tenant in any fashion. So if you've got a heavily security conscious organization that doesn't have a contract with an AV integrator to do IT admin work, you can still build a CSP relationship with them just to do this automation without having a security conversation with your overarching security team. They don't have any additional administrative access to your tenant. Then I walk through here from a partner perspective, the 3 different sets of information that a partner can collect on a Teams room by Teams rooms basis to go through and do that. This references that same blog post I showed before, but kind of calls out the 3 different sets of information that they can use and how they can format it. There's also a template available in Partner Center that partners can download, fill all of it out on a Teams room by Teams room basis, and get it uploaded into the environment. And then this actually walks through step-by-step where to click in Partner Center. You can go through there, grab the template, add the hardware IDs into that CSV template, and then re-upload that information into Partner Center for the specific customer that the partner is working through. And then you just go back to the same standard Teams Rooms Autopilot setup steps. So Really, we've tried to make this as easy as possible for both the OEM and the partner side, ideally making it so that it's all automated from an end customer perspective so that customers aren't manually loading this data, because that adds a lot of friction to what is intended to be a seamless deployment flow. And then what does it actually look like once devices are registered within the Intune environment? And then what do you actually have to do in the Pro Management Portal? And what does that out-of-box experience look like? So really, this is kind of a pictographical reference of it, of, hey, you're the customer and you see, oh, hey, my integrator has registered 10 new Teams Rooms devices. I know that these 10 Teams Rooms devices are going in this new office. Awesome. You can actually go into Intune and see them there with every other Intune or every other Autopilot device that's uploaded into your environment. You can then actually go into the Pro Management Portal and grab those devices and go, oh, hey, here's this new device, and it's going to go in conference room 123. I'm going to link conference room 123's account to that device. That way, when that device comes out of the box and goes through its Autopilot flow, it knows which set of credentials to grab. You can do that directly in the Teams Rooms Pro Management Portal, and I'll show that off here in a little bit. And then from an out-of-box experience perspective, it's really take the device out of the box, plug it in, and so long as it has access to Microsoft 365 to download its Autopilot configuration and get its auto login configuration, you're off to the races. That device is up and running, fully up to date, secure, and running the latest Teams Rooms app. So what does this look like from kind of a more technical perspective? And I want to show this just to kind of explain what does it actually look like and what are the steps that are happening so that you can see visually what's going on here. And then I'll transition into kind of doing a full demo of it and showing what all of that looks like actually within Intune and within the Pro Management Portal and where you can go to take various actions. So from an admin flow perspective, as an IT admin, the Teams Rooms device is registered as a Windows Autopilot device. So this can be done by your CSP, this can be done by your OEM, or this can be done manually following the steps that we kind of talked through earlier. Then you want to make sure that there's an Autopilot profile assigned, and I'll show kind of what that looks like within the Pro Management Portal, or excuse me, within the Intune Management Portal here shortly. And then within PMP, you associate credentials to that device. That way you know, hey, here's this device and here's the credentials that are associated with it. And then from an out-of-box perspective, kind of what are the steps that are happening on that device when you take it out of the box? So you take a brand new Teams Rooms device out of the box for the first time, and it's going to boot up and it's going to go to what we call UBI, which is the out-of-box experience. So this is the, you take it out of the box and it asks, hey, what language do you want it in? What keyboard do you want? Do you want to connect this device to Wi-Fi? That story that you get on every device that you take out of the box, Windows does the exact same thing. When Windows is at that out-of-box experience, the first thing it does once it has a network connection is it reaches out to Intune. And it goes, hey, I'm, Lenovo PC 12345. And it goes, awesome, and it reaches out to Intune. And Intune goes, oh, hi, Lenovo PC 12345. You're actually an Autopilot device in this tenant, and shows, hey, you have an Autopilot enrollment profile here. This is a self-deploying profile. You're going to go through and do that self-deployment flow. Don't require any end user action be taken on the device. What that does is make it so that no end user actions required. Windows is going to download packages, do the Entra ID join, do the Intune enrollment, and get everything set up and ready to go. As part of that flow, you as the IT admin will have actually uploaded an updater script. This updater script automatically updates Windows to the latest supported version. So right now for Teams Rooms devices, we're in December of 2025 right now. Right now, that is Windows 11 24H2. The device will automatically update all the way to Windows 11 24H2, and it will install the latest supported Teams Rooms on Windows application as well, which is currently 5.4, I believe. That will install onto the device, and it will be fully up to date. What it then does is goes, hey, I'm a new Teams Room. I have this Autopilot profile on my PC. It reaches out to the Pro Management Portal. And that's where you're going to see in these steps here, the resource account credentials are available. If the resource account credentials have been configured within the Pro Management Portal, it's going to put those onto the device and automatically log into Teams. If the device reaches out to the Pro Management Portal and the Pro Management Portal goes, no one ever associated any credentials here, I don't know what device this is, the device is going to sit at the team screen and it's going to look for that one-time passcode instead. So it's going to go, hey, nobody configured anything ahead of time for me, so I don't know what device I am, but hey, if you type in a one-time passcode, then I'll know what resource account I need to use and I'll be off to the races. So you've got a fail path there if you don't set up that automated deployment flow in the Pro Management Portal, but ideally you've got the credentials paired there and everything's ready to go. And then just kind of high level on the Pro Management Portal and really what the Pro Management Portal is. And this is the third or fourth episode now in our webinar series. So hopefully you're familiar with the Pro Management Portal, but inside of the Pro Management Portal, everything is there to manage update management as well as reporting. So with that, I'm going to walk through a demo, and I'm actually going to pause here and see Kim, Jimmy, am I missing anything? Any questions that I need to hit on before I start rolling through demo?
There are a couple questions that I've seen come through. One of them was actually in the Q&A. They found that sometimes the account is actually hidden in PMP, and as Exchange admin believes that it's because it's hidden from the gal. I asked them to actually open up a support ticket. One of the things that Matt and I really want to do with this process is identify anything that's blocking our customers from using this. There's a couple things in chat as well about timing and things. If you are having challenges with timing, Matt, it may be due to your environment, it may be due to different things, but we highly encourage you to open a support ticket so that we can start to look at where some of this might actually be in your environment itself. The one big one that I saw inside of chat, a freshly installed MTR unit with a newer MTR version gets downgraded to the deprecated version of 5.3.11 during autopilot. I don't think that's accurate, but again, I think we need a support ticket to look at it to see exactly where it is.
Yeah, the downgrade one would surprise me. I wouldn't expect there to be any devices that you'd buy today that would have 5.4 on it, since 5.4 was released, a month ago, and any images would have come from an OEM, and the device would have been imaged more than a month ago. So I'd be really surprised if there's something that's got a newer build on it than that at the moment. But it's still very fair feedback on that side. I will say on the hidden properties one, I have heard that before. If the device is hidden from the GAL today, we don't surface it in the Pro Management Portal, and GAL being global address list in Exchange. Today, that doesn't surface within the Pro Management Portal. There's some limitations on the API that we use to collect the rooms that are available within a customer's environment. And if they're hidden from the global address list, then we don't see them in the Pro Management Portal. But it's good feedback for us to take back to the team.
We'll look into that. And there was one that just came in when enrolled with Autopilot and Lapse takes over. The local account password solution that we have.
Yes.
How do I recover the admin password to do sign in of the account? I think Lapse would actually, it would actually provision itself so you don't have to go in to get your account, right?
So really so Lapse manages the local administrative account on the device. So it's the local admin password service, native feature set and functionality to Windows. If you need that local administrative password, it's available in Entra ID. So you can go to the device itself in Entra ID. You can also go to the device itself within Intune and grab the randomly generated password associated with the account on that device. And if you need to use that account for one reason or another, you can grab it directly out of Intune.
Yeah, there was also a question about Dell and using Autopilot. If Dell has a solution, I don't see them actually on our list. They're usually sold through other OEMs, but if they do have a solution, we are happy to work with Dell and put them on the solution as well. And Matt and I will sort of look into who from the Dell side we could actually talk to make sure that they're there. All of our partners have solutions for this. This isn't something that we're restricting that isn't there and everything else. Remember, this is built for Windows devices. We are now using this for Microsoft Teams Room to help customers scale. I think that's the big key to remember, Matt. So we're organizing all of this. We're getting this out there, and we're getting it in an information thing because we have heard feedback from others that there are challenges. We are removing those challenges, and we are trying our best to surface all of those challenges. And I think you can see inside of the chat, some people have some challenges, and we want to work through all of them.
Yeah, no, we want to make sure that we've made this as clear as possible for everybody and given step-by-step guidance and caught a lot of the caveats along the way. So things in particular, typically they're sold through a different OEM. So maybe it's a Logi device, or maybe it's a Crestron device, things like that. Those you would look at the OEM that you're buying the hardware from. Dell doesn't typically direct sell any devices that aren't just a Logi device attached. So there's scenarios there, but happy to chat with Dell as well if there's something specific that we're missing. Awesome. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go through and do a little bit of demo here. So let me get to my correct spot. So I have a demo tenant here. This is my M365 admin center. I am currently logged in as a global admin. You do not need to be a global admin to do these things. I'm logged in as a global admin. To do the actions that we're taking today, you need to be a pro management portal administrator and Intune administrator. Those are the two steps that you need to have, or you need to work with someone in your organization that has Intune administrative privileges in order to complete the steps initially. They only have to be done once in order to get the environment set up. After the initial setup and after that one-time setup, everything else can be done just with the Teams Rooms Pro Management Portal role. So depending on your organization and depending on how you decide who need to choose and look at slightly different steps, but overarchingly, the only thing that you need as a go forward is the Teams Rooms Pro Management Portal, admin role. Otherwise, just for the initial setup, you need slightly more elevated privileges. And actually, I'm going to flip one more tab over here. So first, I'm going to just reference our public Autopilot and auto login for Teams Rooms on Windows devices, and it's going to walk through the series of prerequisites. A lot of this I've kind of talked about, both from an administrative perspective, make sure that you have the right admin rights, make sure that you have Teams Rooms Pro licenses. Teams Rooms Pro licenses are required because you need Entra ID P1 and you need the Intune licenses on those devices. And then you have to go through a series of setup steps here. So using Windows Autopilot. So I've gone ahead and done a manual registration of my device, but I'm going to go here into Intune Admin Center. So as Intune Admin Center launches here, I'm going to go to Devices, and then I'm going to go to Enrollment. And then I'm going to scroll down to Autopilot, and I'm going to select Devices here under Windows Autopilot. Now, this is my demo environment. I've only got one device. I've seen customer tenants that have had 100,000 devices in this, so this list can get longer. It is filterable and searchable, but what you're going to see here is I've actually registered the HP G9 Plus that is sitting in my home office. That HP G9 Plus has a serial number located here, and it comes through as an HP IP conferencing PC with Microsoft Teams Rooms. And then what you're going to notice here is that there's a group tag. That group tag is really intended to help organize Windows Autopilot devices. As I've said, this list can get quite ungainly over time. The intention here is to help organize them. We require that you use the MTR dash at the beginning of your group tag. This is what the Pro Management Portal uses to pick up the devices and actually notice the devices. It's also what we use to create a dynamic group that I'm going to show here in a minute to actually collect and organize all of these devices from an Entra ID perspective and from a policy perspective. But really, the MTR dash at the beginning is required. You can put anything that you want after that. In my case, I put Chicago because I happen to be in Chicago, but in reality, this could say anything that you'd want. It could just say Matt's favorite and Matt's the best, or whatever you want it to say. You could put whatever you want to put there. You're good to go. You just need to have that there so that it gets picked up in the other steps in the policy. But this is that initial step. This I did manually, but HP could have loaded this for me, or I could have had a CSP load this on my behalf. Any of those solutions would have resulted in the exact same experience that you see here, where the device is listed. So that's really step one there. And you'll notice that when loading the hardware ID, it's required to set the group tag to be prefixed with MTR dash. You'll notice that that's there. We're using that in a series of different scenarios. So I'll kind of walk through and call out the different points that we use that. But that's step two completed for the autopilot process. Step 3 starts with creating a dynamic group. Now, this dynamic group is going to be in Entra ID, and the intention here is to organize all of your Autopilot Teams Rooms devices separate from any other devices that might be in your organization, allowing you to create separate Intune policies, as well as create separate app assignment policies and configuration policies, as well as really just kind of organize all of your devices separate from Windows laptops or mobile phones or other devices that might be in there. So you're going to see an example of the query here, and I'll show what the actual dynamic group looks like from an Intune perspective. But basically, you're just filtering on MTR dash as the group tag again, and Entra ID refers to this as an order ID instead. The reality is you're filtering by that group tag, so you can see that here. And I'm going to now go into Entra ID and show that. And I keep going back to M365 Admin Center just so that you can see exactly where I'm clicking as I go through all of these different prompts. So I'm going to go to Entra ID, and then I'm going to go to groups. And I'm going to go to all groups because I've already created this group. If you were making a new group, you would just click new group at the top here. But what you're going to see here is that I've got one that I called Teams Rooms - Autopilot Devices. You can name this group whatever you'd like, so long as you know what you've named it and you've got that in there. I'm going to go to the dynamic membership rules section, and you're going to see that all I did was copy and paste that same syntax from the instructions and drop it directly into here. And then if you look at members, what you're going to see is that same Autopilot hardware ID and same Autopilot device that I had in the Autopilot section before has now automatically populated into that Entra ID dynamic group. No additional work on my side. This will then happen automatically going forward. So anytime your CSP or you manually or your OEM load devices into your tenant that have a group tag that starts with MTR dash, they're going to automatically populate into this group without any additional effort and no additional work to be required on your side. And then the next step in this process is really kind of starting to actually configure Intune to support this whole automatic deployment flow. So step 4 is really deploying a app update tool that we've created. This is actually the same provisioning tool that we have in our public documentation for manually updating your devices. This is that same provisioning tool packaged up in such a way that Intune can deploy it onto your device automatically as part of that out-of-box experience to drag devices forward. Let's say you took a device that had been sitting on a shelf for 2 years. It's probably still running Windows 10. As part of running Windows 10, it's probably on a really old Teams Rooms app also that won't even sign into Teams anymore. It's so old. Having this tool there drags the device all the way forward to the latest and greatest application builds. That way you know that you're running something that will sign in and is secure at the same time. So I'm going to walk through and kind of show what these steps look like. This is all done inside of Intune Admin Center and is again a one-time setup process, but you can download the application package right here, and then we'll walk through kind of what those steps look like to create that application package. So I'm going to go back to Intune Admin Center here. This is the Intune Admin Center homepage, and I'm going to go to Apps, and then I'm going to go to Windows. Inside of here, you're going to see that I already have the MTRP provisioning tool there, created and ready to go. If you wanted to create it again, and here, I'll download it and we'll create it again. So I'm going to download that, and then we're going to go to create here, and then we're going to go to select app type, and we're going to pick Windows App Win32, and then hit select. From here, we're going to go and grab that application package that I just downloaded. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder here, and I'm going to grab my provisioning tool. What you're going to see here is an application version that's here, how big the app is, and I'm going to click OK. Inside of that, this is going to pre-populate a lot of information. The only thing that you need to do is specify a publisher. I'm just going to type in Microsoft because Microsoft is the publisher of this application. Then I'm going to click next. What's going to automatically populate here is the install script and the uninstall script commands that you need to do. The only change that you need to make on this page is the device restart behavior. You want Intune to force a mandatory device restart. So after this application has been installed successfully and has updated the flag to show that it is installed successfully, you want Intune to automatically restart the device. This will make sure that everything's restarted and ready to go and that the Teams Rooms app launches. I'm going to click next here. The only thing you have to do here is select a minimum operating system version. We have tested this all the way back to Windows 10 21H2. So you will select Windows 10 21H2 from this list here, and then again, click Next. Now, in Intune, you have to tell Intune how to detect that an install was completed successfully. The nice part about using a Win32 app that really has an MSI bundled into it is that you can do this automatically. So you're going to select manually configure detection rules, you're going to click add, and then from the dropdown here, you're going to select MSI. This is going to automatically populate the MSI. What Intune is doing is actually looking for this really long string here in the Windows registry. Once that's available and once that shows as an installed application, you'll be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to click Next. There's no dependencies on this app. There's no supersedence on this app required. And then you want to assign this to that dynamic group we created earlier. So if I go to Add Group here, and I scroll down and grab my Teams Rooms Autopilot Devices group and hit Select, what this is going to do is actually automatically assign this app, that is the auto updater script, only to my Teams Rooms Autopilot devices. This way I don't accidentally deploy this to a bunch of Windows laptops in my environment or anything else there. And then when I click Next, this is going to give me the option to save it. And I'm not going to save it because I've already got one in my tenant today, but you'd save it, it'll automatically upload, and it'll end up looking like this, what you see here. And I'll go to Properties and show that I already did the exact same steps that I had just walked everyone through there with the same assignments, and it's already assigned to my Autopilot devices group. So now you've successfully set up Intune to automatically update your new Teams Rooms devices as they come online. So I've walked through all of the steps that are there. And yes, I have all of this memorized because I've done this a couple of times. Next is really telling Intune, hey, how do I create an enrollment status page? The intention with the enrollment status page is really to show the integrator or the installer or just whoever's sitting in the conference room that the autopilot steps are occurring. You cannot use this if you wanted to. You could hide most of these items. If you do that, then no one will know what's going on in the conference room as the device is setting up. It'll just kind of sit on this spinning wheel. It's a bit confusing and a bit hard for someone to actually know truly what's happening. So I always recommend creating an enrollment status page. I'll show you what that enrollment status page looks like so that you can see it also. So again, back to Intune, we're going to go to Devices. In this case, you're going to go to Enrollment again, and then we're going to scroll down, and there's an Enrollment Status Page option here. Inside of the Enrollment Status Page, by default, there's just this one that is all users and devices. You can go ahead and click Create and create a new one. I'm just going to open up the one that I've already created here just to show it for reference. It's fairly self-explanatory, but this way you'll be able to see, and we've got everything documented with the individual pieces. You go through and toggle the right toggles, set everything as we've defined in our documentation there. And then the only important part is to make sure that you block the device for use until the MTRP provisioning tool has deployed. This way, as the device is going through its installation and its Entra ID join and its Intune enrollment, it's going to make sure that that provisioning tool deploys to the device before it allows the device to try to launch the Teams Rooms app. This way you don't end up in a state where an old Teams Rooms app is running and trying to install or trying to log in and failing because the device is too far, or the app is too far out of date. And then last but not least, you just assign it to that same dynamic group we created earlier on. So you should be good to go with all of that. And then two more pieces to this. So then you're going to go through and you're going to actually create a self-deploying Windows Autopilot profile. So back again into Intune Admin Center, you're going to go to Devices and Enrollment again. And then you're going to go down to Deployment Profiles. Inside of Deployment Profiles here, by default, there is only a just kind of generic Autopilot profile. You're going to go through and create a new Autopilot profile. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll walk through these steps because it's pretty easy. We're just going to call this Teams Rooms Self-Deploy, but you can call it whatever you'd like. I can't use the dash. There we go. We'll get rid of the dash there. I always use dashes in my conversions, but you don't have to, and you're not allowed to in this specific scenario here. And you can go ahead and convert all target devices to autopilot. Realistically, only certain devices will be autopilot anyway. But you're going to go through, give it a name. and then you can give it a description if you want. And then self-deployment flow here is what we want to pick. So we want the device to automatically deploy itself. Important for this being that then no one has to manually do anything, no one has to log in with credentials, no one has to do any of that setup. You can just do self-deploying here. Now for language and region, you're going to pick the appropriate language or region for that device. Now you can create multiple autopilot policies and autopilot self-deploying profiles. So if you're deploying in multiple regions where multiple languages are important, you can go ahead and do that. That way you've got the language selected and you're ready to go on a device by device basis based on the region you're deploying to. You can also allow, or you can either automatically configure these predetermined keyboard layout, or you can allow the installer to actually select that. And then if you want to apply a device naming template to your devices, maybe you want to use some sort of naming template to have some consistency across your environment, you can do that. What I typically do is I do mtr dash and then I go %serial, if I can type correctly. And what that will do is it will automatically create a name for that device that is mtr dash the serial number of the device. This is great because every single one of your devices, as it goes through its autopilot self-deployment flow, then is going to get a name for that specific device. That way, every device is represented uniquely within your environment. Then you're going to go next, and you're going to assign this policy to that same group we created before. You're going to notice that that same dynamic group is used everywhere. Intention there being we make this really easy for you to do. So I'm not going to click save because I've already got one of these in my environment here, but you're going to see that I've followed the exact same steps. You'll notice I also did that mtr dash serial number part, and I assigned it to my Teams Rooms autopilot devices group. And if I look at assigned devices here, you're going to see that that same HP mini conferencing PC that we were talking about at the beginning is also assigned to this self-deployment policy that you see here. And then last but not least, within the Intune administrative side of things, is if you want to manage the local administrative password on the device, the Entra ID team partnered with Intune has created what they call Cloud Lapse. This is a policy and a set of configurations that has existed in on-prem Active Directory for years. They've now moved that into Entra ID and into Intune. This allows you to automatically rotate and automatically control and create unique local administrative passwords for every device. This follows a lovely security policy and makes it really great to make sure that every single Teams Rooms device has a unique password on it. This may be required from a security policy perspective within your organization. It may be required for various laws in some regions as well, but this is an easy step to roll through to make sure that you've got this created in your environment also. So within that same Intune Admin Center, you're going to go to Endpoint Security, and then you're going to go to Account Protection, and then you're going to create an Account Protection Policy. So I'm going to go through, create this account protection policy here. I'm going to select Windows, and then I'm going to select Lapse as my option here, and I'm going to click Create. And I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call it Lapse MTR. You can call it whatever you'd like to call it. What you want to define here, and this kind of addresses one of the questions, Jimmy, that was asked earlier, but there was an ask around, hey, how do I go get the password? You want to tell Lapse to back up that password to Entra ID. That way you can actually go into Entra ID and grab the local administrative password. The only other thing that you have to do is specify the name of the account. On every Teams Rooms device, the default local administrative account name is admin. You need to type that in there. That way Lapse is controlling that password and that account and not creating some secondary account somewhere else along the way. Then you can go through a different set of scenarios here. If you want to specify what type of password and what type of complexity, you can do that. I'm just going to use large letters for this demo, but you can do whatever password aligns to your organization's security policies. You can also specify a length. You can also specify how long after an account's been used does that password rotate again. Again, just improving the overarching security of the environment. You don't want to disable the account. The account is enabled by default, so just leave that policy as is. Then you're going to go through and scope this, and you can scope this directly to, just again, that same group of Teams Rooms devices that we talked about earlier. And then the very last piece to all of this is just going through and doing the assignment within the Pro Management Portal of assigning a resource account to that hardware ID. So now I'm going to log into the Pro Management Portal here. So I am in the Teams Rooms Pro Management Portal. This ends any administrative access that you need outside of the Pro Management Portal. So you no longer need any level of Intune admin permissions. Everything here is just within the Teams Rooms Pro Management Portal. So you're going to log into the Pro Management Portal. You're going to select Planning, and then you're going to select Windows Autopilot devices. And ideally, what you'll see here is your same Windows Autopilot devices. Everything that has that MTR-group tag at the beginning is going to auto-populate here. If you don't see the devices for one reason or another, you can select the Sync button. You also want to double check and make sure that that group tag was there and is present with that MTR dash. In my case, my device came over here. I can select it and I can go, oh, it's this serial number. Here's the group tag for it. I can assign an account to this device. Now, I've created my Teams Rooms account ahead of time, so my resource account is here. I'm going to be presented with every resource account available in my environment. I'm going to search for Slomka. Oh, we'll just do, because I think it's conf room, not conf. Yeah, it's conf room. There we go. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to select my conference room device. You'll notice that I name all of my devices based on the OEM so that I can tell them apart in various places. But I've got a resource account here specific to my Poly device. I'm going to click Next. Now at this page here, I'm presented with two different options. I can either automatically generate a password for that device. That means the Pro Management Portal is going to create a secure password for that resource account that I don't know, that no one knows, that again, improves the security posture overall. And then at the same time, or I can actually do an existing password for an account. So if I don't have administrative access to be able to reset that account password, the Pro Management Portal won't be able to reset that password, in which case I can instead upload a password for that account if I wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and let the Pro Management Portal automatically generate a password for that account. I'm going to select Next. What you're going to see here is, hey, I've got my device selected, I've got my configuration selected, and I've got my account selected. And I'm going to click Finish. This is going to do is it's going to associate that account with the device, and it's going to have automatically rotated that password on that resource account and configured everything within the Pro Management Portal. At this step, I, as the IT admin, could download that password if I want to know what that resource account password is. Otherwise, I can just click Done. I will never get to see what that password is again. And if I need to change it in the future, I will have to reset that resource account password. I'm going to go ahead and just select Done. What you're going to see here now is that everything is ready to go. A profile is assigned. You've got a ready check mark next to your device. All I would need to do now is take my device out of the box, plug it in, and connect it to the internet, and it will automatically Entra ID join itself, Intune enroll itself, fully update itself with the latest Windows version and latest Teams Rooms app version, and sign itself into Teams, at which point that device will show up automatically within the Pro Management Portal here. And like everything else, I've got my device here. Oh, my device is having a sign-in issue right now. I've also got it unplugged and a bunch of other things probably. So it's not the best showcase of, hey, this device is up and running, but this device is offline currently and in a non-functional state currently. But if I were to boot this device back up, I would see it within the Pro Management Portal here. With all of that said, we've now walked through step by step what the entire setup process looks like, what the configuration process looks like, and how everything works, and what that user experience would look like on the device. There's some FAQ questions at the end there of the Learn article as well, just for reference. But at that point, I'm just going to close out here with a couple of important links to reference. I would start with our Learn documentation and our blog post that you make sure and you're fully up to speed on how to do autopilot. And Michelle Bauman actually did a step-by-step video that's available on our YouTube channel as well. If you want to see what that full step-by-step process looks like above and beyond what I've kind of talked through here today. But with that, Jimmy, Kim, did I miss anything? I'm sure there's more questions since I talked again for another 20 minutes or so. So fire away.
One question that came up a couple of different places, is it available in GCC?
It is not available today in GCC. That is a work in progress.
And one just came in, can you use autopilot to reimage machines?
Can you use Autopilot to reimage machines? Kind of. So you would have to reset the device first. If you've collected the hardware ID and then reset the device, Autopilot will pick up at the next time that device boots and then roll through, and you can use Autopilot from there. We actually had a ton of customers use Autopilot to do the Surface Hub 2S to running Windows 10 Team Edition to Windows 11 migrations. And customers were able to do thousands of Surface Hubs, full Windows re-image, full conversion, full everything, without ever actually touching the device itself.
Yeah. I think what you really see is the security, the deployment. We're addressing these issues that have been things in the past of, hey, I got to give this account to my integrator. That was one of the things that came up in the session, in the chat section, was who do I actually contact and everything else. You contact your OEM, your account management team. Your account team is probably already doing this for their PCs and laptops and everything else. We just need to make sure that we get them involved for the Teams room side.
Absolutely.
Kim, I think we're good.
Did we succeed?
I think so.
Mission accomplished?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of questions around the Android side. Without getting into too far down the road, there'll be solutions for the Android side as well. So that's not something that we're giving up on. Autopilot for Windows is something that was done, and we always say, if there's something available currently for Windows or Android and everything else, we'll roll that out first on that platform, and then we'll follow with the other platform afterwards.
Absolutely. Awesome.
All right.
All right. Think we did it.
Well,
Right.
Your audio
8
wasn't
minutes
great,
to spare.
but it's all right.
Yeah, audio was a bit sketchy at some
At
spots.
times.
But
We'll post this video on our YouTube channel. Again, thank you everybody for the support. Thank you for everything that you guys do. I hope you've learned Autopilot is an important part of your Teams rooms on Windows solution. How we're going to scale, how we're going to go back to the office, how we're going to get things. It is something that Microsoft itself uses inside of our environments. And if there are challenges inside of your environments, please contact your Microsoft account representative. Let us know what those challenges are. We are working towards making sure that everybody's using this for the deployments.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll do this again next